Welcome to the Everyday Awesome Project, where we bring you inspirational stories and game-changing strategies to live your most awesome life.
Yes, my friend Kelly. Welcome to the Everyday Awesome Project.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. So what we're going to talk about today, you and I, my friend, well, first of all, we'll give a kind of a quick briefie is how do we even know each other? My side of the story might be different than yours. So let's have some fun.
All right.
What's your side of the story?
I'll go through mine first. Right. So it was, 2022. And I got invited to Charlie's Angles event, Movement for Recovery out in Maryland, where we did it was a fundraiser for an addiction recovery facility out there in Harbor de Grace, Maryland. And I got invited and I had zero idea what I was getting into, but we were going to run or move for 30 hours around this campus as part of the fundraiser project, right?
What's the longest you'd moved before that?
50 miles.
Okay.
50 miles at one event at that particular moment. And that was like a month before or whatever. And so I went to this crazy event and I had all these ideas. I didn't know what the event was, but I went, maybe I could get 100 miles out of that, thinking that was kind of and it didn't take long to figure out that was not the purpose of that event. It was not to go do 100 miles. It was more about the camaraderie and sobriety and celebrating all the different things that we do there. Yeah. And then you were the race director, so to speak, at that event. And that's how we came across, because we had met a few times during the first day, but I really remember meeting you in the middle of the night. I don't remember what time of night, but it was well into darkness. I'll be frank, I hadn't peed all day because it was like 100 degrees with 100% humidity, and I'm a desert rat. Yeah. Oh yeah. And I was not used to it. And I started getting worried about this. And so I came by you and ran through some of my symptoms, and you're like, no, you'll be fine. Once you cool down in the nighttime and you cool down and get something to eat, you'll be okay. And sure enough, I was. You force fed me some peanut butter and jellies or whatever it was that we had there. And it was magic, and we've been friends ever since.
Totally. What I loved about it is we did meet in a pain cave. Like the fact that you were deep in it, up to your ass in alligators, so freaking beautiful to be in those moments with any person. You and I thrive off of that. That's just who we are. But that was so cool to see you in that experience and watch you literally in front of my own eyeballs evolving as an ultra runner, but not just as an ultra runner, like doing the thing, but as a human being.
Sure.
Right. And then understanding a little bit about your story of sobriety and your story of organ transplant and so on and so forth. So I was like, I gotta stay connected to this dude. He's going to do epic shit in the world, and I want to be there to see it go down.
Yeah. And you have, and I know we don't live in the same space and we don't necessarily talk every week, but you have been a part of each one of those milestone moments, specifically in my ultra running journey. Where we chat and celebrate, and I'll bounce things off that big brain of yours and get some ideas. And
you show up sometimes at my stupidity.
I do.
Like we were just talking about the across the years 100-miler. You're just like, hey, what's up? I'm like, this sucks. Make it stop. And you're like, yeah, keep running. Next.
Yeah. It's supposed to suck. That's why we're here.
100%. Okay, so for the audience, let's kind of unpack your story a little bit so they can get to know you and what a beautiful human you are. So before running and before all the insanity, and we're going to talk about your latest shenanigans, the 300 miles on the Arizona Trail. Before all of that, you're just a normal dude cruising in life, right? Like just trying to make things happen like any normal human would be in the world. Perhaps there was an issue with addiction, or when
I don't know, perhaps it was full-fledged. Yeah, it was for sure. Maybe in my 20s, before I recognized it as a problem, it was a perhaps, but it didn't evolve that way. So prior, to give the short version of this long story, basically what it was is, I out of college, I played competitive sports and whatnot. As a kid, I played competitive baseball, cool. and then quickly discovered when I was in college playing ball that I was really good at a couple of things. One was people. I was very good at interacting with people, and then I was very good at drinking beer. I was pretty talented, and so of course I picked a career running bars. because
Oh,
it's
shit. I didn't know
people.
that.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
people and booze
Okay. And
24/7,
sports.
and sports. Yeah, for that matter.
Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely. It was an upscale sports bar that I was part of that for 10 years. I was part of that company or something thereabouts. Um, and yeah, and I was good at that stuff. And so as my uh, professional career sort of advanced, my drinking career did as well. And it
Mm-hmm.
became, next level and all star at this level. So let's take it up another notch until finally it got to be an issue. In fact, actually, I heard Dennis Quaid, the actor, who's also sober. I saw him on an interview or a little clip, and he described his journey perfectly with mine. And it was the 3 stages of addiction. And he says the first stage of addiction is it's fun, because it was, the first few years or whatever it was super fun. Then the second stage is it's fun with problems. Yeah, that was mine. And then the third stage was this is a problem. And so that was kind of the 3 stages. And so finally, in my late 30s, after trying to quit, knowing I have a problem, maybe it's not as bad of a problem, all the denials that kind of go through. Finally, in January of 2018, I got very, very sick. Unbeknownst to me, my liver was failing as a result of my booze and drinking over the years, because it had really accelerated that last year. Alcohol had dissolved my first marriage the year before. And so in 2017, I really spent the wrong end of that year in the wrong end of the bottle. And so yeah, finally on January 8th was really when I started to notice that year where I didn't feel good. For friends of mine that I tell this part of the story to, I only drank 2 drinks that day, 2 shots, and that was it that day, which should tell you how bad I felt. And then I felt worse on Monday and didn't drink at all. And then I felt worse on Tuesday and didn't drink at all. Until finally Wednesday, at the request or demand of my boss, I ended up going to the hospital, which is where they told me I was an end-stage liver failure, and I had no idea. Yeah, or if
And
I knew
you're what age?
somewhere, I was 38 at that point.
38, and they're telling you you're in end-stage liver disease.
Correct, end-stage liver failure as a result of my drinking.
Wow.
So the way that the story kind of went down is Jamie, who is now my wife, was then my girlfriend. We toured the hospitals around Tucson. There were 4 different ones that we went to for a certain period of time. The first one I went to, I was there for a couple of weeks, and the doctor said, nothing we can do for you. Maybe let's try this hospital, see if they can help. Went to the next one. They worked on me for a couple of weeks. There's nothing we can do for you. We really don't think there's anything anyone can do for you, but go see this liver doctor here in town, who was the hepatologist, which is liver doc, of all hepatologists here in Tucson. And he had 2 appointments with me. The first appointment was simply to get my blood work. And then the second appointment lasted about 15 minutes because he told me, you got maybe a month and a half to live, and there's nothing I can do. You need to get your affairs in order. And thank goodness Jamie and I had met and worked together at that point, because she was my advocate and basically rolled me out of that hospital or that doctor's office and told him that's not good enough. And so the next day, after having a very, very poor health day, I couldn't get out of bed. My family was there kind of having an oh shit moment, like, what are we going to do? They got me to the university hospital down here, which is where I spent the next 3 months.
3 months.
Yeah. And got me there the next day after the doctor's office. And even when I got there, that team said, sorry, they can't help me either. That liver team there and the transplant team told me no originally, because there's a couple of hurdles that I had to overcome. So there's the original hurdle that transplant recipients have to go through, all of us do, and is you have to be the right amount of sick. Okay. Right? Because if you are too sick, then you're not going to survive this surgery anyway, or at least odds are that you're not going to. So we have to get healthier before we're willing to risk this beautiful organ that is going to save somebody's life.
That's right. And
the other flip side of that coin is if you're not sick enough, then you can wait, because somebody else is and needs that new organ. Okay. And I tended to fall on the I'm too sick side of that score. It's called a MELD score for liver patients. The big hurdle that I had to overcome, was I wasn't sober. and the docs looked at me like, we are not giving you
We're
this
not
liver.
putting this in somebody who's going to go out and
Correct.
drink tomorrow.
Correct.
Yeah, that's a losing proposition.
Yeah, and I don't blame for that. I mean, I get it, and then
fair.
things have changed a little bit in the 7 years. But back then it was, you had to be sober for a year, would have had to gone to, sober for a year, having gone through, whether it's AA or Smart Recovery, some program of that genre, as well as therapy and all these different check boxes that you have to hit before they'll even consider you for the transplant list. I didn't have that kind of time. I had, the doc that told me I had a month or month and a half was pretty spot on. And so what ended up happening was there were 2 docs at that hospital that were they were hospitalists, or are hospitalists, and my internal medicine doctors, who happened to be on shift the day I came to the hospital, and I happened to become their patient.
Okay.
And they saw something in me. I don't know what. I don't know that they could really put their finger on it. They stuck their reputations on the line and convinced the transplant team that I was worth the risk.
Jesus, who are these angels?
They're 2 docs. I've talked to them since
a couple
of times. Yeah, okay. I've talked to them since a couple of times.
I mean, you literally owe them your life, and they're perfect strangers that walked into the room.
Yeah, very much so.
That could be anybody's story. So pay attention to who's walking in the damn room, people.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and I do a lot of public speaking now, and some of that public speaking is with medical professionals in the transplant world, and that's a very powerful part that I talk about. That because I get it, they see so many patients, and a lot of this is just on paper. And if you look at my story on paper,
forget about it.
I shouldn't have survived. There's no way I should have gotten a transplant. Zero chance. But these 2 doctors happened to get to know me. And decided that they would convince the transplant team. And that was the beginning of March. So it was probably 6 weeks or 8 weeks after I really started getting sick. And then things moved very quickly for 2 reasons. One, I got moved. Once the transplant team said yes, then I was put on the transplant list. And I was moved to the top because I didn't have the time. And they were able to recover an organ for me within about 10 days or 2 weeks that matched, right? That did fit me as a person physically, because you got to find the right sizes, right? Because if they have, a liver that was from somebody who was, 5 foot tall and 100 pounds, anatomically, it's not going to fit. And then it had to match all the other markers. And there's a whole series of them that they have. And so luckily, they were able to find or recover one for me. And that was on the 22nd of March that year. So this is what, 2.5 months later, something along those lines.
Unbelievable, dude.
Yeah, pretty crazy.
It is crazy. It is crazy. And you could have actually also, I mean, I know we attribute a lot now to your wife, but like you also could have given up on yourself.
Yeah.
And said, fuck it, I'm out.
Well, and it's interesting. I've had this conversation with me when I'm out there in the trails. And looking back at those weeks while I was in the hospital, I didn't ever have a moment of saying, you know what, this isn't worth it. This is stupid. I'm out of here. Like, because I could have very easily
or
done
I choose the alcohol.
Yeah.
I choose the alcohol.
Yeah, and just discharged myself, and out I went. I didn't have any of those moments. I'd never had a moment where well, that's not true. I had one moment where I really thought I was going to die. But I never had that in the back. And I don't know, maybe it was denial, or maybe a big chunk of it was denial. Maybe it's just kind of my personality of, there's always a positive side of things, maybe a combination thereof. I don't know. But I never really had those deep, dark moments while I was in the hospital. Even when I'm filling out, my living will and what I want people to do when I die and how I want to prepare a funeral service or any of those things, which we did. We went through all that paperwork, and it was a formality. But, even Jamie tells a story of when the night I had surgery was not good. I was in the ICU. My body had crashed. The term is actively dying at that point. Okay. I will save gory details, but I was bleeding out at that point. I was bleeding from anywhere that you can bleed from. To the tune of, for anybody who's in the medical profession, I had 27 units of blood transfused prior to surgery while I was in the ICU. And a unit of blood is about 250 milliliters. So what's that? 7 liters of blood transfused while I was in there. And so, and I was in and out of consciousness. Jamie was actually by my side in the ICU holding my blood bucket, for lack of a better term. And when they finally got, have the liver flown by private jet back to Tucson and are wheeling me down to the operating room, I think what sums up my personality is, she's a mess. She's crying, and I'm being sort of whisked away, if you think, Grey's Anatomy style, down this hallway with all the doctors to the OR. I'm holding her hand as they're about to say goodbye, because I'm going through the double doors into surgery. I kind of I have the ventilator and hooked up to everything. I can't talk, and I just winked at her, like, "Yeah, we got this. It's fine. I'll see you in a few," kind of deal. And sure enough, 14 or 16 hours later, whatever the surgery was, she was in my hospital room, waiting for me. It's pretty crazy.
Somehow you found this inner peace to just go through the process and trust. Right?
Yeah, and there was a moment for that.
Early. I guess there was a few moments for that.
Well, so when I first got into the hospital, I was super ashamed of why I was there, right? Obviously, this is all my own doing.
All of it. Yeah.
And the shame and the guilt were just crippling, right? I didn't even let Jamie tell anybody I was in the hospital for the first 10 days. Not my parents, not my siblings, not the only people that knew were my work, because obviously I wasn't at work. But they were the only ones that knew. And so, because I was convinced the doctors were going to give me a pill, pat me on the butt, and send me on my way, and then I can continue drinking and life goes back to normal. Nobody's none the wiser, right?
Well, that's an addictive mindset. You convince yourself of all these things.
Yeah.
You're living such a story that you've crafted and created in your own head.
Yeah.
And it just continues that way.
Yeah. And I'm, lying to anybody and everybody, including Jamie at that point, and hiding all this stuff. And you don't want the curtain to be drawn so that everybody can see behind it. Right. And so there was a moment, probably 2 weeks, maybe 2.5 weeks into the hospital, where I realized I'm not getting out of here anytime soon. I have to just let go of whatever fantasy I had of getting life back to normal. Like, I need to let go of that notion, and then now just do what the doctors tell you, exactly. And you're going to be here, you're going to be hooked up to all the machines and the IVs, and this is now your life until they let you go. Not knowing that at that point, not knowing transplant was the end result. And there was a very conscious moment of just having to surrender, ironically enough, even though I didn't understand what that word meant at the time, but just surrender to the circumstances and be like, I can't control this narrative anymore. This is the truth of it.
Yeah.
Accept it and just ride this wave until to wherever it goes, to wherever it leads. Yeah,
the suffering basically took over.
Yeah. Very much so.
And the suffering really is the part where we're all in denial. Each of us does this all the time, daily or whatever, for however many years, around lots of things, having control and having all these things that we deem to be happening in our lives to us, or whatever the story is that we're saying. And it takes a long time or something really hard and challenging before that will be released.
Yeah, for me, as stubborn and bullheaded as I am, it took touching my own mortality to get me to realize that.
Well, you're not alone.
No,
it's
I'm
millions
not
and millions
alone.
of people, right? Like, and that's in a way it's alarming, but then at the same time it's not, because this is the human experience we're having.
Yeah, and I think, correct. There are millions and millions of people who suffer from some sort of an addiction. In fact, I have my own thoughts about addiction that. First off, we are wired that way. I talk about it often that addiction is not a bad word, because every person ever is slightly addicted to something. I mean, it's on a spectrum. There are 0 people in the history of people that have been not addicted to anything ever. And on the flip side, there's 0 people in the history of people that have been addicted to everything 100%, like all the things. It just doesn't work that way. Everybody is somewhere in the middle. And so I want to talk about addiction and mine specifically, because it's okay. It's just the way we're all wired this way, right?
Exactly. And put on top of how we're wired, evolution of mankind, like it's a real thing, how we evolved and the science behind all of that kind of stuff. And then looking at society and how we currently have crafted this existence that we're all sharing now is ludicrous.
Yeah.
Right? Because we've taken this primate sort of, way of survival kind of way that we operate our bodies and our minds in sync with each other. And then now we've decided to make it even more challenging, as if it wasn't hard enough.
Right.
We should definitely create an environment where it will become more and more of an opportunity for people to be addicted to new things, more things,
Right.
because the relentless onslaught of applying that pressure, right? So when it was back in the day, I mean, I'm older than you, but when people could get addicted to things, it would be drugs, alcohol, okay, maybe sex or porn or gambling.
Right.
It was kind of the gamut, right? And now there's 100 more things that people could get addicted to, because now 100 more things have come into their opportunity, into their vision, into their eyeballs and ears every day, into their hands.
Yeah, your cell phones. That's my favorite example is the cell phones. I mean, they're designed to keep our attention.
It's nuts.
Yeah.
And it's really unfortunate that this has happened to our society, but we need to talk about it. We need to do something about it. We need to be honest about it.
Yeah.
And I love you saying that's the hard part. Real.
Well, I think that's the hard part is being honest about it. Because, for me, like I'm victim of that cell phone as much as anybody else. Like you just, take your social media app, just remove the button. You don't have to remove it from your phone. Just move the button off your home screen. Yeah. And then count how many times a day you reach for your phone and go to click it and it's not there, and it's double digits at minimum, maybe even triple for a lot of people. But you don't want to admit that part because, oh no, I'm not addicted to my phone. I can put it down anytime I want. Maybe.
Well, what's at the root of looking for those things? One of the root causes could be that we can't be comfortable with ourselves. So what's your root cause?
Yeah, correct. I think it's, you take out the quote unquote boredom out of your life and you can't sit still or sit with yourself for 30 seconds. I heard a stand-up comedian talked about, I don't remember his name, talked about this very thing. He goes, when's the last time you stood in a line? And
a line at the grocery store.
Yeah, and just stood there.
Exactly.
He goes, in 1983, when I was a kid,
this is what we
did. Just stood in line.
We stood in line.
He goes, I had no idea it was being mindful.
And we sat in a line. We sat in a chair and waited.
Yeah, maybe you had a magazine.
We talked to someone. Oh, we might have talked to another human. How insane is that? Or even in line or whatever. Right. Even in a car. Yep. Driving with someone else.
Right.
Or even in a restaurant. We can't just sit in a restaurant and be like, hey, what's up, homie? We're having breaking bread. Let's make eye contact. Last time I checked, we might know each other. You're together for a reason. And you still see this, that they're totally looking at the what have we done?
And now, and Jamie and I are the same way. We have to schedule, no phone days or no phone dinners, and it just turn it off and put it away, and it's not even in the same room. Good. Off it goes.
I have a question for you. So how long have you been sober?
7 years, just over.
Okay. So 7 years sober on the daily. How much of a battle is this for you?
Not as much as it used to be.
Okay. The farther it gets away.
Yeah, the farther it gets away, and it never really was a big battle because I spent my hard months in the hospital.
That's true. Detoxing and getting
correct. Support, the first 10 days when I was in the hospital, I was detoxed. I was hallucinating, and there were people that came to visit, and I don't remember them coming to visit me. So I had a blessing in that regard, where the hard part of getting sober, one, I didn't have a choice. I was in the hospital. There was no way to sneak in a bottle of liquor for me. It's frowned upon when you do that. And then the hard part then was that first summer, because I was not in a good place mentally or spiritually, emotionally that first summer, and it was multifaceted. The big thing where I wasn't in a good place is, now I'm new to this sober world, right? I have this brand new gift that I have been given that in my mind, I completely did not deserve in any way, shape, or form. This should have gone to somebody else that deserved it more than me, that is a better person than me.
And guilt.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Survivor's guilt for lack of a better term.
Okay.
Because someone passed away that day and I did not, right?
Wow.
And I have no tools on how to cope with any of that.
Mm.
Like I didn't have any of the tools that I use today when emotions are hard.
Mhm.
I had none of those. And so that first, call it 4 months, that summer after transplant, they were tough. There were some dark moments in there because I was beating myself up. I was guilty. I was ashamed. I didn't talk about my story. Like if family or friends asked me, no, we're good. I wouldn't talk about it at all. I hated the word sober. I was embarrassed about it because sober people meant that they were alcoholics, kind of deal. And there's a stigma to that. And I had no way of dealing with any of that. I didn't understand these emotions. I didn't understand why I was feeling the way I was feeling. And then I wouldn't accept the way I was feeling, right? I wasn't allowing myself. It was trying to use all the old tools that I had, which was compartmentalize, put it in a box, shove it away, and we're going to pound this bottle of whatever liquor that I'm throwing back. And then I don't have to worry about it because I'm hammered, and all that had disappeared in a blink of an eye.
Well, you were still the same person. So just because you had a surgery and got another organ and were forced into detox and were forced into a sobriety moment and experience, you're still the same person. Even people that walk into, AA or whatever treatment centers are walking into today or whatever their battle is, they're the same person. You don't magically become someone else. It takes time to be honest about how that shit occurred. Like what is the reason, or multiple reasons, could be a lifetime of shit, by the way, that even became the circumstances that I became addicted and lost control of my own life and self-worth. And then all of the actions that happened, we got to unpack all that shit. And then we have to heal it all and build actual tools on like, how am I going to do this differently? How can I fully evolve? So it's taken you 7 years, or it took you...
I think it probably took me 2 to 3 to really become at peace with it. And what's ironic is during that journey of learning to love myself, right, and to love this part of me. It's one of my favorite of Charlie's. We talked about him. It's one of my favorite speeches that he gives. Is that the addict part of me? I was so ashamed of that. Man, it's one of the best skill sets I got. It really truly is.
Capitalize on those skills.
Absolutely. Now you got to be careful. You got to wield it for good, because I can absolutely turn back into the villain of my own story. But no, that tenacity that addicts have is fantastic. You just got to point it in the right direction, right? And it took a good 2 to 3 years for me to really truly understand that, and how I found or discovered that realization that this is a good thing, and you are still a wonderful human being because of everything that you went through, was when I started to share my story and talk about it with people, because I didn't for a long time. And then what I realized was I started sharing some of the things that I went through, or some of my hard parts, and man, it makes you bond with that person in front of you. It was me being vulnerable in front of them, whoever they are, creates that trust. And now all of a sudden they're sharing with me, and we can both become better because we're talking to each other.
Exactly.
And then you hear their story and you see a little bit of, I'd see a little bit of me in their story and vice versa. And realize, man, no, this person, she's great. What, she's a wonderful person. Wait a minute, her story is a lot like mine, or his story is a lot like mine. And everybody gets better because of that. And so the more and more that I share, the more I realize that, no, this, there are things that I maybe, I guess, wish didn't happen, but wish is the wrong word, because it put me here talking to you today like this,
Exactly.
Yeah.
100% agree.
Never would have if I hadn't gone through those struggles.
Yeah.
And
that's true for anybody who gets out the other side and can see straight, meaning like, what is the reality of who I really am and my worthiness in the world and why I'm here, right? And find that love and compassion for their self, and then ultimately after themselves, the other people and the world that they're living in, right? It's like discovering that piece. Oh my God, what an incredible gift that you gave to yourself. But then now that you're giving back to the world.
Yeah. Well, and and just being here and being alive is a gift.
Totally.
And it comes with beautiful moments, and it comes with not so beautiful moments. But both of them are gifts. I mean, they both are. We were talking about Buddhism earlier. You can't have light without dark, or sunshine without rain. I mean, they're intermingled.
Exactly.
If it was just bright outside all the time, you wouldn't appreciate it.
No, we'd all walk around with dark sunglasses. We'd walk around with dark sunglasses on. We wouldn't even look at the sun.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's always there. So we're going to wear our dark sunglasses and turn the other way.
Yep. Yeah. So that's
here you are now, 7 years later.
Yeah.
Dude, that's
pretty
so
cool.
Awesome.
Who'd have thunk it?
Who'd have thunk it? Your health is stable? How are you feeling?
Everything's great. No, I feel great. I am healthier now than I probably ever was. I mean, call it 6 years, 7 years before my transplant. I mean, I was 300 pounds running bars, between beer and cheesesteaks that I ate every day, or fried foods. I mean, I was a big dude there for a while. No, I'm healthier now. And knowing how lucky I am for that, because there's lots of transplant patients that it doesn't go as well as it did for me. I'm on the minimum amount of immunosuppressants that I can possibly be on. Right. I am taking the bare minimum amount, which is great. And all my markers look great. And all those things. So you have to go to the doctor often. I know them all by first names. Yeah. I'm healthier now than I ever have been.
You formed an organization called Gratitude and Grace, the Gratitude and Grace Foundation, which does what?
Sure. So we help support financially, communally, emotionally, help support transplant patients and their families. As well as folks in substance abuse recovery as well. And that's been fantastic. And really how it all came to be was so overwhelmed with gratitude that I had actually made it to the other side, when I woke up from that surgery, and I knew I had to give back. Now I had zero idea what that was going to look like. In fact, actually, while I was still in the ICU, one of the things that I thought of was taking pictures of all these gadgets and things that are sticking out of me in the tubes and the machines and what the doctors are doing, and putting together a binder for future transplant patients so they could have a little bit expectation for what's coming, because the doctors can't always explain every single thing that they're doing. One, they don't have time. Two, I'm not really sure I understood. So I wanted to maybe put together a little binder or book so that, from a patient perspective of what's going on.
That's cool.
Well, I didn't realize that already exists. I didn't realize that at the time. But that was the first thought that we had. And so as I got healthier and more emotionally stable, and started sharing my story, how Gratitude and Grace came to be was now Jamie started sharing her story, because she has just a traumatic journey as I did, being on the opposite side of that OR. And she wouldn't talk about her stuff either. And so as we're starting to share, she was telling me things that I had no idea. I was clueless to it, that she was protecting me from, because I was in the hospital. The days or nights that she would come to the hospital and never come to my room and see me, because she was out running down doctors and asking, why aren't we doing this? And why aren't we doing that? And how come he's not on the transplant list yet? And advocating for me.
Exactly.
While we were there. And so some of the things, especially financially, she shielded me from until probably 2 years later when we talked about it. So for example, after transplant, when I was discharged, I would spend Monday through Friday at my grandmother's house, and my mom was there at the time. And so they would take care of me during Monday through Friday, because part of the agreement, I think for every transplant patient, but most, and especially for me, was you have to sign up and agree that you're going to have 24-hour care for the next 2 months or whatever it is after your transplant, when they discharge you. And if you can't have that organized and set and there's a plan in place, they just won't do the surgery, right? Like, no, not until you get this. It's a requirement. So Monday through Friday, I lived at grandma's with my mom, and they were always there. Specifically, my mom was always there to help take care of me. And then on the weekends, I would come home with Jamie on Saturdays and Sundays. Well, what I didn't know was, because money was so tight, is Jamie would turn off the electric at the house Monday through Friday. She would come to like my grandma's house when she'd turn off the water so that she could take a shower, or at least a hot shower maybe. and all of those things that she did just to save those pennies. You know, she would, all sorts of different things, you know, I called it utility bill roulette. Like, which one did you pay this month?
Exactly.
Okay, we don't have to pay that next month, and we'll pay the other one. And we did that. Really, I didn't know, but for like a year. Now, we didn't have to turn off utilities and things like that once I got home permanently. But we definitely struggled for quite some time because the fact of the, well, I mean, my income disappeared overnight.
Yeah,
you know,
totally.
It was gone.
And these things cost a fortune. Even if you have insurance, it's a fortune.
Super expensive. And then there's the 49 different pills that I was on when I got discharged. So, I mean, there was all sorts of these costs and expenses. So once we started sharing, again, part of that healing process, you start talking about your story, the light bulb kind of went off and the seedling of gratitude and grace started to grow. This is how we're going to help people. And there are other organizations here. There's one other in Arizona that I can think of that does similar stuff to what we do. Not exactly, but close. But so we will help financially support transplant patients because you can't work. You know, you're not supposed to go to work for about a year after your surgery. You're not supposed to drive for like 6 months after your surgery. And really you can't. You're not up to it. You're just simply trying to get healthy again. That is your job, right?
That is your full-time job.
Correct. Eat the right things, exercise the right amount, you know, get the proper amount of rest and maybe a little extra. That's your job. And so you can't go to work, you know, and help support. And so now what we do is if there's a transplant patient or their family that is struggling financially, they can go on our website, and the very, very top of the first page, there's a request financial assistance button, and they can click it, and then we can help with, depending on what it is, but the bills. It could be rent or the mortgage or the electric. I mean, we've been helping now, and we're starting to pick up momentum. You know, we've been doing this now for about a year and a half. Over the last probably 2 or 3 months, I would say we average 2 requests a week.
What?
That we've been doing. Yeah. Yeah. Well, word's gotten out to these transplant coordinators and their social workers about what we do. And so we've been able to help. We helped. This one lady wrote us a wonderful email because her electric had gotten turned off, and we were able to get it turned back on for her. And the email, the letter she wrote us was just, I mean, it put me in tears. And she wasn't, and we were able to do some other things because of sponsors that we had. And I'll give a shout out to Orgain, which is a plant-based protein, either drinks or powders or whatever it might be. They had sent us, for this purpose, sent us a bunch of samples and different things, a big container and giveaways and all sorts. Anyway, this particular lady, her transplant team was, I don't know what the right word is, but they were getting on her because she wasn't getting enough protein. Well, the problem is she can't afford the proper diet. The proper diet's expensive. She can't afford to keep the lights on. So we sent her a month's worth of this Orgain powder and didn't tell her we were doing it. We just sent it to her. And you could hear the emotion in her words as she said, thank you. I mean, it really is, it's been super, super powerful helping these folks.
It's crazy because they sound like little things and they're everything. They're everything. You know, when you're the person in it, or you and your loved one are the ones in it, it's fucking everything, dude. Like these small moves are the biggest moves. And if people only understood the impact they could have by making a few small moves every week or every month, whatever their emotional or bandwidth is, otherwise resources, like it's significantly life-changing for all the humans. How did you take this organization and pair it, or maybe you didn't, with ultra running? Because you have continued to, since we met, you know, you went from the 50 mile, now I'm going to do this 30-hour, and then you've continued to progress on that journey. Obviously, it's been good for your physical health and your mental health. And you've started the organization and you're helping other people, but you've continued on that path. You haven't gone back to the couch.
No, not at all.
You just finished what exactly?
Well, I just finished the Arizona Monster 300. That was three weeks ago. This weekend was
300 miles.
Well, if we're going to be tactical, it's 304.4, but I mean, who's counting?
I'm counting.
Yeah, so we finished that. That was that was crazy. What a journey that was. That was amazing.
Tell me about it. Tell me all about it.
It was super hard. Well, the way it kind of came up, so Destination Trail Races, for those that are listening, they have other 200+ mile races out there. Candace Burke is the owner, founder of Destination Trail. And so they have other races out there. And I've always thought, that those races are just like, how do the guys do it? I don't understand how they run those things, But as I have gone further and further in my ultra running journey, I have started thinking to myself that those distances might be a little bit more up my alley, because I love hiking. I love being in nature. I love being outside, and I like being in the middle of nowhere, right? Where it's not, don't get me wrong. I like hiking the trails that are right near the trailhead and the visitor centers there, and they're great. But they also have 4,000 people there,
Exactly.
And so I really like the ones where, you're 10, 15, 20 miles from the nearest anything, really. So this particular race happens to be in my backyard, and a stretch of this trail was I run them every weekend, right?
Okay.
And so a year and a half ago was when Candace announced that she was thinking about this race. And I was sitting downstairs in my recliner, and we were getting ready to go somewhere or whatever. And I had my phone out, sitting on Instagram. And her post came up about this, and Jamie was walking downstairs, and before Jamie even said anything, said, "Hey, by the way, when this race happens, I'm doing it." And she goes, "What?" And I said, "Look, it's super long. It's going to be super expensive. I don't know if I'm going to get 20 miles, 50 miles, or I'm going to do the whole thing, but it's in my backyard. I am doing this race."
Yep.
And she looked at me, because this is part of the reason Jamie's as badass as she is. She looks at me and goes, "All right, we'll figure it out." Perfect. So she announced this. It was from Superior, Arizona, which driving from my house is about 2 hours.
Okay.
To Patagonia, Arizona, which is about an hour and change south of my house.
Okay.
Mostly along the Arizona Trail, not all of it. Some of it cut through Tucson. But yeah, for 304 miles. And I signed up the day that it opened a year
Of course you did.
ago. Yeah, the day that it opened, I signed up, which was a year ago.
Of course you did.
Yeah.
And
was
the
super
appeal
excited about it.
was what? What did you anticipate would happen on this 300-mile journey?
So the appeal, I think, was wow, I don't remember what I was thinking at the time. I can tell you what I'm thinking now.
No, I'm just kidding.
Well, yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair. I think the thing is that it was, or is, I think still, 300 is the longest trail race that's out there, the longest distance. So that was pretty cool. It's the inaugural year, which is pretty cool. It's in Arizona. I'm an Arizona kid.
Yeah.
So all those things. And I really wanted to see if I could.
Exactly.
I wanted to, I don't know if I can do this, and let's give it a shot, And I think one of the things that I really talked about with a good buddy of mine who helped me train and get ready for this race, as we're getting closer and the butterflies are starting to kick in, as we're getting closer to the race, I said, look, here's the thing. One of the things I think I have going for me is that anytime we go do these crazy adventures, or I'm out in nature for a 20-mile, let's climb up this ridge, and it doesn't matter the distance or how hard it's been or how long I've been out there, as soon as I get back to the truck, I wish I was still out there. As soon as I get back, I'm like, I should have stayed out a little longer. I should have enjoyed that summit some more. I should have taken another path back, or blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And so this race, I'm like, well, I'm about to get what I wished for, because, you made it to that aid station, which is 45 miles away through this canyon in the middle of the night, and you're going to sleep for an hour, maybe. And then you're going to go do it again for another 45 miles, and we're going to rinse and repeat for the next week and do that. And so I was looking forward to that piece going into the race. So I think that was part of the appeal. Now, as on the backside, and we can talk about the race itself, but what I have learned now, what makes me want to do it again, because I will. I mean, I think I told you earlier, I'd go do another 250 miler right now if I could. Now my feet are still a bit beat up, so they will not let me today. But I think what I learned is the emotional clarity that came with stripping away every layer of who I am, till I finally got to that, just the word I've been using is raw core of myself. The only way I can think that I can get there is by pushing for multiple days over multiple miles over super hard terrain, up and over mountains, is the only way that I think I can get to that emotional place where it's just you,
Mm-hmm.
and that's it. There's no fluff. There's no projection of the persona that I want you to see.
Mm-hmm.
It's just me and the emotions that you feel. And I don't know how to get there a different way. And that's why I
It's
want to do it
like
again.
these multi-day things are very different than the single day. So anyone who's is listening to this, who's done races, whatever, marathons or even ultras, where, you start, even if you start in the dark and you finish in the dark, or start it as the sun comes up, finish as the sun's setting, whatever the dynamic is. That is an experience, and it's epic, and we love it. We love those people, and we want people to be doing that all day long. All humans are capable of doing that, in my never to be humble opinion. Once you go all night long and continue to keep moving, something changes. And like you're saying, the peeling back of the layers, right? There's this traditional way that we operate in the world every day is, when the sun rises, we get up and then we go to work and we do some things. And then when the sun sets, we go to bed and then we do it again. And we do it again. And we do it again. It's called the story of our life, accumulating days, months, and years.
Right.
And that's kind of how most people live. But in nature, that's not how the wildlife lives. And in the dawn of humanity, that's not really how they lived either. So there's something really primal about that when you're out in the nighttime. And so that first night, you sort of are having this like, I'm still moving. This is quite remarkable. And it's very liberating, right? It's this great adventure. You're on this grand adventure. And then usually somewhere around the second day, whether it's at sunrise or whatever the thing is, a little different for everybody, probably some suffering is creeping in, and maybe even creeped in before this.
No, it was day two. It was day two.
If you've trained, ideally, it's day two. Some wheels might start falling off the bus at this point. Part of that is exhaustion, mental fatigue, focus, all of the things that are required to make good decisions. And then part of it is just the miles are piling up. This is still a human body, and the human body is built a certain way in Western America in the year 2025, right? So some shit's going to hurt. But then the miracle really happens when you start working through that, right? So you've sort of let go of all your stories and all these preconceived ideas. And I know that the race didn't go as planned in your head.
Right.
It never does, by the way. And I love that the most about all of this. I never know what the fuck's going to happen. And frankly, bring it on. That's always even better. But in that, like, peeling back of the layers, and as the days start to, or the miles start to mount, now you're on day one, you're having a few issues. You're obviously working through them still relatively intelligently, or your crew's helping you or whatever. Was it mostly your feet that were the problem child?
The physical problem was feet. Yeah. And they really started hurting probably mile 70 to 80 is when they started to hurt. They didn't get super bad until, well, I mean, they were super bad in the middle, but when they really started to affect my mental capacities, we were pushing 240 or 250 miles, where now I'm starting to slow down and wondering if I can do this because my feet hurt so bad. But no, I mean, you nailed it. The first day, the first day light was great. We're out trails, and look at this gorgeous, we're in a canyon and we're up and down, and I'm meeting new people, and all the fast runners are passing me because they're fast, and they're going through, and it was fantastic. And there's people everywhere.
Yeah, a lot of energy.
That first aid station, the first sleep station, I got there at probably 2 a.m. or whatever time it was, about an hour and a half past where I wanted to get there. It was packed. There's so many people. Yeah. Now I didn't get to sleep very much because I was kind of tucked behind these rocks and, all that different stuff, but, and it was super cold the first 3 nights. It was super, super cold. But it was fine. It's like, okay, well, all right, I'm an hour and a half late, but what I'm going to do is I'm still going to get up and leave at the same time. Like, I want to keep this plan that I had spent hours writing, trying to keep my paces and where I wanted to be. Okay, we're going to be an hour and a half short of our rest than we wanted it to be, but I built in some cushion into that rest. It'll be fine. Day 2, as we're now out of this aid station at 6 a.m. So right when the sun came up, I was brush my teeth and head out the door. And then what I didn't think of or look at or put into my equations was the terrain. You know, there was a never-ending climb coming out of Gila River Basin and onto this plateau. And I don't know how far that climb was. It felt like ever.
Forever. Mm-hmm.
You know, but I finally crested it. Probably it took me about 5 hours, 4 hours, whatever it was, to actually make it out of that. It wasn't really a canyon, but you were climbing
Nonstop.
Nonstop. It's not super steep, but it's up, you know,
Well,
over
how
these
many people
foothills
climb for 5 hours?
Oh, true. Well, there you go. And so that was when I was now at that point really inside my own head.
And here's where it gets real.
Correct. And I was inside my own head because I'd written this plan, and day 2 was supposed to be my big day. I was going to do 100K at 20-minute miles, and here's where we're going to be, and we're going to be there at midnight, and you know, I had it all dialed up, and my crew had their assignments. They knew what I was doing and all this stuff. So once I climbed out of this thing, I text my crew at whatever time in the morning it was and said, "Hey, we're gonna have to make adjustments. I don't know what that's going to look like, but there is zero possibility I'm going to keep the paces that I put on paper."
Yeah.
I'm so far inside my own head at that point that's all I can think about is having to make up the time, and I'm going to have to just skip this next aid station, and you know, blah 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 blah. So 2 of my crew, and I could not have picked a better team to help support me through this. I mean, they were second to none. You know, Jamie's the crew captain, and all 4 of my pacers are all experienced ultra runners.
Nice.
And 2 of them piped in almost immediately and said, "What are you talking about? Your job is to make it to the next aid station. We'll handle the rest. Like, we've got this. Yeah, relax, get out of your own head. The only focus you have is getting to," at that point, it was Tortilla aid station. That's it. That's all you got to do. And then I want you to leave with enough time that you're not, you know, getting kicked out. Like, that's all you have to do.
Yep.
And it took a couple of those texts for me really, again, to surrender and release those expectations to where, okay, they got it. I'll just leave them to it. They're going to do what they're going to do. And my job is to get here. And it did it. It took a little bit of weight off my shoulders and my thinking, you know, because I'm the back of the packer.
Because you're making yourself crazy.
I was. Well, and I'm the back of the packer. And so cutoffs are a real thing, you know?
Sure. It's a legit thing in any race. In any race, that's a reality. But you can make it 10 times worse by making yourself crazy in the process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was ruminating for hours climbing out of that thing, knowing that, you know, I'm looking at my watch going, we got to pick up the pace. And I'm doing like 25-minute miles instead of 20-minute miles. And if you start doing the math, well, if I'm 5 minutes longer than 1 minute a mile, that means I'm 20 minutes late every hour and blah, 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 you know? And then that's going to put you 2 hours behind here. And if you're 2 hours behind here, then, you know, and
the reason I'm laughing is, of course, because I've done this. And anybody who has done ultra running has made themselves crazy as a fucking jaybird out in the middle of nowhere, talking to themselves. Sometimes we're whipping out our spreadsheet that we have with all our magic ideas about how this is all going to go perfect. Or we're taking our phone out and we're calculating minute miles and all these. We're so hilarious, aren't we?
Yeah.
This is when we're still in our old story.
Correct.
Right? That old identity of we have control, things are going to go a certain way, I'm a certain person, this is how the world works, people have expectations of me, my crew, my pacers, whatever, I have expectations of me, all of the stories that we tell ourselves.
Yep.
And that's the cage, really. At some point, you opened the door to the cage and stepped out of the cage.
I did. Yeah. And it took a couple of days still, you know, because there was a point on night number 2. Sorry, I had to think about it where I was. Night number 2, where we were actually starting to chase cutoffs a little bit, right? Because the first half of the first 3 days, cutoffs were, I mean, they were gracious, but they were still pretty tight, you know, considering, you know, the distance and the terrain we're going.
I think the race directors do that on purpose. And also the climbing was mostly up front, right?
Correct. The big chunk was in the first half. Now there was plenty of elevation afterwards, but the big chunk of it, more than half of it, I think was in the first half of this race, like 2/3 or whatever it was. And so that second night, at this point too, I had now teamed up with some people. Still can't have any crew yet. You know, well, you can have crew, but you can have pacers. And so that second overnight, I teamed up with a couple of guys. One of them, his name was Tom. He's from Australia, and you know, we kind of came out of that aid station at dusk, and we have, I don't remember how far we had to get to the next big station, but probably 35 miles or something like that. And so
all night long, basically.
Yeah, until the next morning. Yeah, we were going all night long because it was eight o'clock or 9 o'clock when we finally left that aid station, or whatever. And so we teamed up, and he said, "Hey, do you want to rock this together? Because it's easier when you're with other people." I'm like, "Heck yeah," because then you can talk. And you just met this person, so you can they share their story, and you can share my story, and you talk, and that makes the miles sort of tick by. And so there was a couple, 3, 4 of us that were really going. But the aid station in that night, it was the middle of the night. It's called them R&R, which was refuel and ramen stations, or ramen and refuel, because they were in the middle of nowhere, right? So there's no big party. It is quiet. Here's some pasta that you can eat. This particular one actually had personal pan-made or hand pizzas. They were delicious, by the way. And so we got to this one, but we're now pushing, like, we're only getting there an hour and a half ahead of the cutoff. Like, we gotta push a little bit. And this was the one part of the course that I had never been on before. Being that this course was in my backyard, yeah. I literally trained on every section, except I wasn't able to do this one because it was in the middle of nowhere. And logistically, trying to figure that out was tough. So as we were coming into this, it was middle of the night, so I couldn't tell you really what it looks like. But all I know is that you're in this sort of canyon area, hilly area. It's called the Black Hills. Mm-hmm. And you can see headlamps everywhere. At all 360 degrees, you can see headlamps. So I have no idea where we're going. Exactly. Like, is the aid station over here, or is it over here? And then you have to climb this, pretty good size mountain or hill or whatever it was before then you dip down back into the aid station, and then the next day climb back out. But we had to hurry, and we were suffering pretty good because sleep deprivation is starting to kick in. Mm-hmm. So we were able to get to that aid station about an hour and a half or maybe 2 hours before the actual cutoff, when you have to be out of the aid station. So we had some time to sit. We ate some pizzas. I don't think I actually slept at that aid station, but was able to sit down under a blanket next to a fire, warm up a little bit. Tom actually did sleep for a little while, and then we woke him up and we headed out. And then that third day was kind of where the way I've described it, maybe you can put this into words better. Time and space dissolved. Yep,
they ceased to exist. 100%.
They weren't there at all. It was the only thing is just move forward. Mm-hmm. That afternoon, I now have my pacer, my first pacer of the trek, was with me. Thank goodness, because now I'm starting to be in some dark headspaces, and that afternoon, evening is when the hallucinations started kicking in, because I've at that point probably only had an hour and a half sleep in those maybe 2 hours in those 3 days. And I didn't sleep the night before this race. I mean, let's be honest. Mm-hmm. I mean, we didn't start till 11 a.m. and we had to drive to Superior. I got up at 5 a.m. I mean, I maybe had 4 hours the night before. So yeah, sleep deprivation started to kick in, and that's when your eyes start playing tricks on you. What was cool about that experience is I was still consciously aware enough to know that what my eyes were showing me is not real. The only time that I got startled is one of my favorite stories is when I almost stepped on a snake, mm-hmm. climbing up Mount Lemmon, which was the big climb, right? That was the 6,000 feet in 12 miles on these just bushwhacking trails and fire roads that we had to be on. But Christian was out in front. I was second. We picked up another guy named Robbie who we'd met right there. And Robbie's a big part of the reason I finished as well. We spent 200 miles together. We finished the whole thing together. We met on the trail that night for that afternoon. So anyway, so we're coming up this hill and we're kind of cresting to the left around this ridgeline. And as I turned to step, making that left-hand turn, I jumped. And the first thing that rolls through my mind is, why is there a 3-foot long yellow corn snake in the middle of the trail on Mount Lemmon? They don't live here. Mm-hmm. And that was the first thing. And I'm looking down at this. It was 3 feet long. It was kind of a maize yellow, and it's slithering. I mean, it's moving. Mm-hmm. And then I hear them giggling, mm-hmm. and I went, that's not a snake, is it? It was an agave leaf, which for those, it's a cactus that lives up in that area, but it was 3 foot long and it was on the trail. But I'm staring at this thing while they're telling me what it is, and it's moving. Mm-hmm. Like I can see it moving. And that was my first for real hallucination the trek. The next one came not too much later, not even a mile down the trail it came. And this was a very fun one. So I need you to imagine a Disney costume character Muppet thing, right? Like a Mickey Mouse style costume, right?
Mhm.
However, this particular lady, she was a woman, she had a bumblebee butt, complete with, a good stinger. But the top half of her was a beekeeper's outfit, complete with the helmet. And she was
Okay.
bending over to pick something up. And I'm staring at this thing across the way going, there's no way that there's a bumblebee Muppet thing in the middle of Mount Lemon. And so so I tapped Christian on the shoulder and said, all right, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to tell you what I see,
Mhm.
and then you're going to tell me what it actually is. So I
Mhm.
described this to him, and he very deadpan, kind of looked at me and goes, yeah, man, that's a snake, or that's a snake. Yeah, man, that's a tree stump.
Yeah.
And then, so let's go. And so we just kept on trucking after that. So then I saw all sorts of fun stuff. I saw a tiki guy kind of standing behind like this guy that was praying. I saw a ninja that was pulling on a branch at one point. The weird one, the weird one, the weird one. They were all weird.
Weirder, yeah.
Yeah, the weirder one, or the more real one, I suppose, were the auditory hallucinations. I could hear people talking just off the trail. I couldn't understand their conversation. I couldn't hear their words, but it was people chatting often. And you pause for a sec, because the first thing you do when you hear somebody behind you, you stop, like, oh, there's somebody, and there was nobody there. Okay. So then we just kept on going. Those ones were very real. Like it took a second. I knew that there was not a ninja pulling down this branch.
Totally.
Or a beekeeper. But the auditory ones were interesting.
These kind of things are part of it, and we tell these stories and we laugh about it, but it can scare the hell out of people. And it's
Sure.
actually a big reason that a lot of people don't want to do this kind of stuff.
Sure.
Is they think they're going to be terrified. So this shows the value of having pacers with you or trail partners to slog along rather than in the dark, and especially at the nighttime or in the times where you're hallucinating.
Right.
It can be dangerous. So to be honest, this is a dangerous sport. We choose it anyway, willingly. But then you can be strategic and intelligent about having people around to make sure that you are safe and you don't make a wrong turn or a bad decision because of some of these things, or just really being depleted.
Well, I think that's a good point. And in your trail buddies, they're there.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
they're in the same boat as
Lean
you.
on them.
Yeah, absolutely. And it does, the camaraderie that I had with the people that I met out there is, God, it's fantastic. And because you're all, it's that shared suffering. You hear it's talked about often.
Yeah.
And you're in that moment sharing that same suffering as you both have this goal in mind. You've never met before. I met 3 or 4 different Australians that I shared some miles with, people from Phoenix and Ohio, and I mean, all over, right? But now we're great, and we text and we see each other on Strava or Instagram or whatever it is, and we text back and forth. Or they're running, a couple of them are doing Cocodona this weekend or this week, which is great because now I'm going to cheer for them, from all the way down here. But it's amazing the people that you meet, so that you can be safe while you're out there.
Exactly.
And realize that it's not a snake. It's okay. It's an agave. It's fine. Or no, there's no ninjas in the forest. It's just your eyes playing tricks on you.
One of the biggest things I learned early on, and why I'm still drawn to the sport, is you learn so much about taking care of yourself. I mean, and I love how everything strips away and you have that single focus of keep moving forward. So it's like hydrate, nutrition, stay warm, stay dry, keep moving forward.
Yep.
Something happens, deal with it.
Right.
Something happens, deal with it again. Deal with it again. You're problem solving. You're just learning all these skills that otherwise in your everyday life you would never learn. You would never be pushed to this place that's so damn challenging and nobody can resolve it except for you. Like that kind of empowerment to me is freaking priceless.
Agreed.
Priceless.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, what that also does is, you can then it's hard to describe. I was amazed at how my body responded, because we've all been on those 1 mile runs that are just awful.
Horrible.
And you go, I'm not doing this today. And your body says, you're right, we're not doing this today. Versus specifically in my case with my feet, I literally had a conversation with them on the second to last day, when they are battered and bruised. And I had this they were so swollen, over the course of this 300 miles, that my crew actually bought me 3 new pairs of shoes throughout the week.
Damn.
That were each a size bigger.
Whoa.
So that my feet would fit.
Wow.
Into the shoes. And by that Thursday, so that would have been the 10th. So we've now been out there 6 days, or coming up on the 6th day. I couldn't put my gaiters on my shoes, right? Which are the things you put over your shoes to help keep sand out of them, because they wouldn't fit. I couldn't fit them on there. And I couldn't tie my shoes properly also. Like I couldn't tie them tight. They were just loosely snugged on there. And so that last day, I actually had a mental conversation with my feet and said, look, here we go, fellas. I apologize to you, and this is going to hurt. However, you will function today, and you will operate as you do normally. You will do all the normal motions. You will, we're going, midfoot. I mean, all the different things that we talk, and we talked for, 2 or 3 minutes. And I said, all I need you to do is to get to the Casablanca, which was the last aid station. You have to get there by Thursday evening. That's it. Once you do that goal, you do whatever you want. I don't really care, but that's all you have to do is get there.
Yeah.
And it worked. And they did. Now can't run really since then, and my feet are still battered and bruised. I actually have another doctor's appointment on Monday morning with a podiatrist.
Yeah.
Because there's still some issues going on with them, but they were able to achieve the goal that day, even though it hurt, because I asked them to, or commanded them to, one of the two, depending on whose perspective.
Exactly. And there'll be moments in these things where you don't feel anything. And there's other moments in these things where you feel everything. It's the most bizarre thing. And you're like, okay, I guess this is what we're doing for the next hour, or whatever the hell it is. And then the pendulum will swing again. But I think the most incredible experience I'm hoping you're going to share as we start to kind of wrap up our time together is really what was happening to you mentally and emotionally. So physically, people are not going to be able to comprehend this race. As much as we could talk about it for days on end, all the details, unless they get their butt off the sofa and they get up into the mountains and on the trails and just start experiencing nature firsthand. It's like going to Mars.
Right.
Okay? But it's available to all of us. And by the way, it's also free in most places to do this. So we beg of them to just start and do anything. But for you, I want to know, like, for your mental and emotional journey on this race course, this particular experience that you had, you overcame endless amounts of suffering. I mean, it's not even stuff that we can comprehend. Like I said, people just can't even grasp this. Over and over and over, you got up and rose again and again and again. It's kind of like your sobriety journey. It's kind of like being a transplant recipient. You continue to rise. What in the hell was going on in your, do you even remember?
Oh yeah, no, maybe not all of it.
What was going on? I mean, were you even present in the reality when you could see you were going to finish the race? Did you have even awareness, or had your brain left the building?
No, I was aware.
Okay.
So the first time that I had those thoughts, that I think I allowed myself to have those thoughts,
I'm going to finish this damn thing.
was at the top of Mount Lemmon. Was after, and in the middle of night number 3 going into day 4. Was we made the top of Mount Lemmon with time to spare. Right. So we now had, I don't remember exactly, but we had time to spare. We didn't have to rush. And we talked about it earlier. That was the point in the race where the cutoffs start to get even more generous, right? Because once coming down from there, when we got to Mount Lemmon, and it was middle of the night, so it was I ate 2 Impossible burgers and took my shoes off and went to bed. When we got up and we were headed down the mountain now, with a big group of us, there were probably 8 of us at that point that all were heading out at the same time. That was the first time I went, I'm gonna do this thing, like this is going to happen. I just have to keep doing what I'm doing, and if I do that, I'm gonna finish a day early. Those kind of things. Like I have plenty of my body feels great. My feet don't, but my body feels good. Mentally, I feel good. And again, because that time and space had kind of dissolved, I just have to get to the next aid station. That's it.
Exactly.
And it doesn't matter that it's 30 miles away. It doesn't matter that it's going to take us 10 hours to get there. None of that even came up in my thoughts. It was just get to the next aid station. And then you get to have another burger or a quesadilla or a pizza and sit and eat and joke around with everybody and, you know, bond in that moment. And then we're going to get up and we're going to go do it some more.
Exactly.
So that was the first time that happened. Towards the end, so there were 3/3 of this race. The first one was getting to that first aid station before you can have crew, which was 105 miles, which actually was, ironically, a third. That one was tough because I was by myself. I was in my own head. I didn't have somebody that I was with crew-wise, or even, I mean, I had made friends, but not close friends, you know, so I was by myself a lot of that chunk. The second third was getting through Tucson. Very, very different. You know, we got down off the mountain. Now we're on paved bike path for 40 miles or whatever it was, which again, I use that a lot of times. I use that same section as my commute to work, you know, so I know it in and out, but that was that second section. And so that particular day, that I don't remember what day it was, Tuesday, I think, was tough because we needed to get to what was called Gabe Z, which was going to be the beginning of that third by the end of that night. And so we left at 8 in the morning and we had to go 40 miles before we were going to quit for the night. That was the hell or high water. And it was hot. So remember I said it was super, super cold. Those last 3 days were pushing 100 degrees. It was totally exposed, no shade, right?
Yeah.
And so we made it to that Gabe Z. That's when those layers were pretty well stripped. My feet are now trash. I'm now, whatever it was, 5 days in. I'm exhausted at that point. And because we had pushed. Now I'm still moving great. I'm still in good spirits, you know, for the most part. I mean, like you said, the pendulum swings. I have my moments.
Totally.
But what's great is that when you're in other people, hopefully everybody's pendulum's at a different point as they're swinging. So my moment is his crappy, you know, good one and vice versa, right?
Yeah.
And then your pacer hopefully is there to have all good moments, you know?
Right. Exactly.
Hopefully. And so we have this now, there's 100K between the Gabe Z and that last aid station, Casablanca is what it was called. There's 100K, a little over, it's like 67 miles or whatever, between those two. That was tough. And that's when those layers started getting stripped. We had a stretch that day. It was hot. There were 5 of us. I caught back up with Tom, the Australian, and his pacer, Marco. And then there was our crew. There was a stretch of, I don't know how many miles we did, but it was probably an hour and a half where none of us really talked. We were just, you know, marching through the desert at a decent clip. It was relatively flat for the most part during this stretch. And we were trying to get to that next aid station because it was super hot and we heard they had ice. So we were trying to get there, you know. But that's when the layers were starting to really, I'm now getting to the core of this thing. And so what happened was at the end of that night, we're trying to get what was called Oak Tree, which is in the middle there. And now we're in the foothills of some of the mountains that are down below. So we're in grasslands, kind of oak, ironically, forest, and it's rolling hills. And this might be my favorite story. It's on a short list if it's not. So we're getting through this stretch of these foothills here, and it's dark. I don't know what time at night it was, but it was dark and had been for hours. And we have to make this climb, and it's about 2 or 3 miles worth of climbing out of this little valley that we were in. And again, not a steep climb, but it's a vertical, not stopping. Here's hills, and you're just climbing for the next hours or whatever it was. And at this point, my feet are now affecting me, and which means now it's affecting my team that I'm with, because they're not going as fast because I'm not going as fast. You know, my pacer, Jeff, he was like, well, I'm with him, so it doesn't bother me at all. But the other guys that I'm with, they want to stay with you, but at the same time, they have their own race. You know, so there's those mental questions to rise. So anyway, so we're coming up through, and I made a conscious decision that no, we're going to push this last uphill section. You know, we're going to go at a good clip. It hurts. I know it hurts, but we're going. So we're making this climb. And just towards the end of this climb, Jamie called me just to say goodnight, whatever time it was, because she had to work the next day, I think. And I said, I'm going to call you back. We're going to be at the top of this thing in 0.15. I'm out of breath. I'll call you back in however long it takes me to go a quarter mile. I'll call you back. So we make it to the top. I call her back, and it was a 2-minute, not even a 1-minute phone call. And she's saying, I just want to tell you goodnight and that I love you and you're doing great. And then the very last thing she said when she hung up was, I am so proud of you.
Oh.
Man, I lost it. I'm tearing up right now. I did. My lips started quivering, and I just started, I couldn't help it because all those layers are gone, and you're sleep deprived and you're exhausted and you're 200 and whatever miles I'm into this thing. I can't help it. And so what I really wanted to do was hide it from the two fellows that I'm with, because we're tough guys in the middle of the desert. I'm like, what are you talking about, man? This is what
it's about.
Yeah, just let this happen and realize how much more I love Jamie because I did this race. And again, I wouldn't have done
yourself.
True, but in that moment, it was her.
But she was reflecting back to you the reality of what you were saying or should be saying to yourself.
Yeah.
Having pride in what you're accomplishing. That's what good partners and good friends do. They reflect back your own damn truth.
Yeah.
They just have the balls to say it, because sometimes you don't. So she called you on it. So that's so good, because that's why it rung such a chord. If it was superficial and it didn't really resonate, it would have just kind of bounced off. We all have those kind of relationships.
Oh, sure. Were you looking and go, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, right. She just went right at it.
No, right and it did. It struck that chord. And now I'm talking to them about it, and that made the miles go by a little faster too, till we got to this aid station. And that next morning, well, it wasn't next morning, it was like 2 hours later. When we left that aid station was when I had the conversation with my feet. Like, we're going to go see Jamie at Casablanca, and we have to hurry to get there. And this is how this is going to go today. And they did it. And so that was probably my favorite moment of this journey. Now, the last 2 miles coming into the finish line were pretty amazing as well. I mean, it was daytime. We hiked through the night. We had 16 miles to go. Molly is now pacing us, and now she's responsible for her whole little crew. We picked up another runner, and Mike is his name. And so she's in charge of all of us, I think, because they were like, oh, good, he has a pacer. We're not going to get lost. And she's like, don't put that kind of pressure on me. But so what happened, Jamie texted our little group when I crossed the 300-mile mark, and we're now 4 miles from the finish, right? And we're on this, I think we weren't quite to the little road that we had to take, which is like 2 miles long. But I'm in mode. We're going to the finish, and we're cruising along. Well, cruising along. Yeah. And Jamie texted.
Again, you have no concept of time and speed. Anyway, so whatever.
Nope, didn't matter. We're just moving.
Yep.
My sole focus is to get to that road, because I know the road signifies we're done with this thing, right? And so Jamie texted 300 miles, and that was it. Okay, cool. Oh, hey, 300 miles. We passed it. All right, we're good. Just brushed it off. And then Molly, a few minutes later, she looks back at me. She goes, that's 300 miles. I went, yeah, I know. And she goes, how is this not a big deal? And I went, that is a big deal. And I mean, here come the waterworks again. And then when we got to a mile from the finish line, man, you can see the pictures. I posted them online, like my lips quivering, like I can't wait. And then I start, as you come around the corner, you can see the gate and the finish line and the whole thing. The cowbells are going, and I can see it's not just my crew there. Like, one of my best friends growing up, who has just gotten into photography, has his big old telescope lens out, and I can hear him yelling for me. And then I see like a bunch of my run club, and we're still an hour and a half away from Tucson at 8 o'clock in the morning on a Friday. Like, people have jobs. Yeah. They're there, to cheer me on. And there's this group of people that are here supporting me. And man, that was it. My dad's there, our youngest is there. Wow. It was amazing. It was amazing. It's a memory that I'll never forget, but it absolutely changed me as a person since I've done that race. It was 1,000%. Yeah.
Because you evolved, right? Like
Mhm.
this process is an evolution. We talk about it as a like breaking down, but we don't really mean breaking down. We mean peeling back,
Mhm.
right? It's really an evolution, an opportunity for growth, stripping
Mhm.
away all the unnecessary,
Mhm.
not even real, false senses of self, identity, whatever, constraints, restrictions, ideas, limitations, whatever, to find who am I really? What am I
Mhm.
doing? How did I even do this? I have no freaking idea. Who am I right now? No idea.
Right.
But it's so incredibly beautiful. How cool
Yeah,
that
it,
people got
it
to
it was
witness
pretty
that,
cool. Yeah, and so many
you know?
people did, and that I was able to share it with them.
Yeah. And you'll
All these
continue
people
to.
that support me. Oh yeah.
You'll continue to. You
Well,
have to.
and during the race, I had a moment of clarity, to quote the rooms. During the race, I there was multiple people that came to visit me because I'm a local, so there's all sorts of people that came while I was in Tucson. And I had a conversation with, the person that was next to me, and I said, and I kind of smiled, and I don't remember the context of the conversation, but my response was, God, it is amazing how many people are out here cheering me on.
Mm.
And she smiled and very sincerely, as a compliment, went, "Really? It's amazing?" Meaning, like, of course you have this many people cheering you on. And my response was, "Yeah, it's amazing because I look back to 8 years ago
Mm.
when I had destroyed or tried to destroy every relationship that I had.
Mm.
And somehow or another, 8 years later, here I am with these text messages and hugs and people that are taking a week off of work to come help me reach a goal."
Exactly.
God, that is good stuff right there. Those
Exactly.
relationships and friendships that I have somehow cultivated, right? Which is amazing
Well,
because,
hopefully, hopefully you have full recognition, and I'm sure you're still in the
oh,
process of actually like fully recognizing. It's going to
yeah,
take a
it's
while
take a
for it
bit.
all to continue to
Yeah.
download, but the I am worthy.
Hmm.
What?
Yeah.
Because that was the deepest, darkest. I'm not worthy
Yep.
of getting
Yep.
sober, getting this organ, having a life, getting all of these
Hmm.
opportunities, having this girlfriend, now wife, having this community, starting this, right? All of the am I worthy, I'm not worthy questions
Yep.
were just answered.
Yeah. Very much so. And
The,
continue to
the
be
answer
answered.
was, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
And what are you going to do with it?
Yep. That's the
Right?
whole, that's the key to it is okay. Yeah. The answer is absolutely,
Mm-hmm.
like, unquestionably. But
Unquestionably.
now what do you do?
Mm-hmm.
And how do you bring other people, how do you become that beacon that attracts other people that are either in addiction or new to sobriety or going through their
Mm-hmm.
transplant, which is why I like doing some of these things, is so that you can be an example, I can be an example of, no man, the kind of life that you have on the other side of this is just, it's dumbfounding, the kind of
Exactly.
life that
It's
you can
it's
have.
incomprehensible.
Yeah. It just is. And so hopefully that's the biggest thing, is having a positive impact on folks that need it.
Mm-hmm.
And even some that don't, maybe, but just
Dude,
having a positive impact on people.
everybody needs it.
Yeah. Well,
Some
true.
are
Fair.
asleep and are not going to hear it or see it.
Fair.
That's fine. We can't wake up everybody, but
Hmm.
everybody needs it.
Yep.
Everybody.
And having the ones that don't think so,
Mm-hmm.
right? That no, the ones that say I'm not worthy of it,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
grabbing them spiritually by the hand and
Mm-hmm.
guiding them through
Yeah.
when they need that little extra love and
Yeah.
support.
Exactly. I can't even fathom what's going to happen next with you. I have no
No,
idea.
I don't know either. I don't know either. I can't wait though.
Whatever it is, I'm totally in. What are we
Yep.
doing? Well, let's go.
Right.
Exactly. Exactly. Wow, so beautiful, so beautiful. The story is amazing, and really, it's because you're amazing, and you are a beautiful human. You're on
Thank
the
you.
path, dude. Full
Yep.
1000% on the path. Like it's so incredible.
It's good stuff.
It's good stuff. It's good stuff. I hope that people are inspired by this story in whatever capacity it speaks to them. You just never know who's listening and what's going on with them or a loved one or whatever the dynamic might be. But I believe you always have to start at home. So,
Yep.
you wouldn't be able to have the impact with hundreds and eventually thousands of people on with your nonprofit and with the course of action that you're taking to help others if you hadn't first resolved this.
Oh, for
and
sure.
really
Yeah.
owned your physical body, your emotional
Mhm.
body, your spiritual body in your life, right?
Yeah,
So
absolutely. It does. It starts within.
mhm,
You
you
know,
got to
I
do it.
can't love anybody else if I don't love myself.
Exactly. Exactly.
Just can't do it.
Keep loving yourself because we love you. How are people going to be able to find you if they want to continue to hear your
Oh
story?
gosh. Well, first we'll start with the foundation, gratitudeandgracefoundation.org.
Okay.
Is how you find that. It's a 501c3. We are always looking for donors. So anybody that wants,
Donate,
yeah,
and sponsors.
and sponsors, we look for those. We have all sorts of events. We're going to have another team for El Tour de Tucson. If there's any cyclists out there that want to do that, it's a big bike race in November.
Okay.
Christian, who's one of my pacers, he's running the Mammoth.
Okay.
Sally McRae's race in September.
Okay.
He's going to run that on behalf of Gratitude and Grace. So he's raising some money.
Okay.
We got all sorts of different things that we do and events. So there's all sorts of different ways, volunteers or sponsors or donors or whatever. So go there first.
Okay.
And then Instagram's pretty easy for me. It's just keep going is my handle. So just _ keep _ going _ is how you find that. And you can find me. You can just Google and go from there. And there's all sorts of different ways to listen to my story and and emailing. And especially if folks need something, need someone. Yeah, I mean, I'm a phone call away. Easy to get a hold of. We'll walk you through whatever we got to walk you through.
Yeah. There's nothing we can't handle. That's what people need to remember. I mean, you're a shining freaking example of that.
Thank you.
Nothing you can't handle, right? It's incredible. All right, dude. I'm proud to call you friend.
Right back at you. Can't wait till we get to see each other again.
I know. I was just thinking about Tucson. I might have to take a look at that bike ride.
Come on down.
Love it. Love it. All right, everybody. That's it for us today. Remember what I always say, how your life feels is more important than how it looks. This dude's a testament to that. 1000%. And that's a wrap. We'll see you next time.